Hello! Today, my group and I will be presenting the data of our survey that we collected from local university students and we name it as Back to Normal. Let's start with Faris.
Thank you, Iman. So right now, I am going to explain about the issues that we have chosen in order to conduct this survey. So our issues are how the university students in Malaysia feel about the online distance learning, as known as ODL, during the COVID-19 pandemic, and are they really ready to go back into the campus to have normal face-to-face class? Next slide. Next slide. So on March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization, WHO, declared COVID-19 as a global pandemic. So as we all know, due to this, on 18 March 2020, the Malaysian government has enforced an order called Movement Control Order, MCO, in order to stop people from contracting and spreading the COVID-19. So as a consequence, all physical activities in every sector in Malaysia are forced to stop and they need to stay at home and practice social distancing until the MCO is over. This includes education sector, and the Ministry of Higher Education announced that all university students have to continue their studies online at their home. So next slide. So after a few months later, in December 19, 2020, an article has been published by Suzalina Khalid explaining about how the university students can go back to campus in March 2021. In the article, the Minister of Higher Education of Malaysia, Datuk Dr. Noorani Ahmad, talked about the possibility of the university students in going back to campus is still in discussion, and they are currently in contact with the Ministry of Health to consider all the safety and risks that the university staff and students might face if they open the campus in March. So these are the issues that our group have found and want to make survey about. So next slide. So these are the objectives of our survey. Number one is to gather information about the opinions of university students, not just from public university, but also in private, regarding the online distance learning, everything, the difficulty that they face. So we gather all the information. The second one is to know whether are they really ready to go back to campus financially, emotionally, and physically, and how do they really feel about it. The third one is to analyze students' mental health during ODL because there are few reported cases of depression and suicidal because the pressure and the stress that they feel during ODL can trigger them. The fourth one is to analyze, is there any physical pain that they might feel due to the exposure of computer light during ODL, such as migraine, dizziness, red eye. So we want to gather all this information. So I am going to pass the next presentation to Alif. Thank you.
Thank you, Faris. So now we will present to you about the data that we have collected from the survey. From the first data, age of respondents here, the majority of them, 85.7%, are in the age between 20 to 25 years old, or equivalent to 30 people out of 35 respondents are in this group. 11.4% people are in the age between 16 to 20 years old, or equal to 4 people out of 35 respondents, and mainly 2.9% equal to 1 people out of 35 respondents is the age between 26 to 35 years old, and 0% of the people in the group of 36 years old and above from this first data. The majority of respondents are in the age between 20 to 25 years old because, as we know, in this survey, we focuses on students and most of the students are in this age. Next slide, please. Next, for the second data, either the respondents are from the public or private university. From the data that we collected, Most of them, 88.6%, are from the public university or equal to 31 people out of 35 respondents, and only 11.4% of them are from a private university, which is proportional to 4 people out of 35 respondents. Next slide, please. Thank you. The third data, which area respondents come from, which are red, yellow, or green zone, we can see that the majority of respondents come from the red zone, which is 42.9% or equal to 50 people out of 35 respondents. Meanwhile, 31.4%, same degree with 11 people out of 35 respondents have come from the yellow zone, and merely 25.7% or equivalent to 9 people out of 35 respondents have come from the green zone. This data is collected to measure which areas the respondents come from. Next slide, please. Then the fourth data have the respondents read the news article from the Berita Harian regarding the announcement for university students returning back to campus on 1st March 2021. Most of the respondents, 82.9%, or equal to 29 people out of 35 respondents have read the article, and mainly 17.1%, or sending the receipt people do not read the article yet. From this data, we can say that the most of the students in Malaysia are aware of what happens nowadays through social media such as Twitter. This kind of important news is easy to spread among the youngsters. Next slide, please. The last data that I will present to you, do the respondents, which are students, prefer online distance learning, ODA, or face-to-face class? The majority, 68.6%, or 24 respondents, choose face-to-face classes, and 28.6%, or equal to 10 respondents, choose ODL, online distance learning, and merely 2.8%, or equivalent to 1 respondent, choose face-to-face class with the reason they need a physical connections. From our point of view as student, ODA is complicated or harder than face-to-face class, but at the same time, our life is even more important. If the Ministry of Education, MOHE, allow the students to return back to campus when the COVID-19 cases are still not remedied yet, it is very dangerous to all students, and ODL still valid and look as an alternative way to replace physical class at the moment, rather than the students should postpone their studies. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Alif. Next, I will be presenting about data 6 to data 10. Okay, in data 6, we ask the respondent whether they want to go back to campus or not if the Minister of Higher Education and Majlis Keselamatan Negara MKN confirm the statement. And the majority of the respondent with 77.1%, which is equivalent to 27 of all 25 respondents answered yes. And the other 22.9%, or 8 out of 35 respondent answered no. And this result indicates that that most of the respondent want to go back to campus. And next, in data 7, we ask about how do they feel about the possibility of returning back to the campus. And 17 out of 35 responded gave the answer like it is possible to go back to campus, because some of them have technical difficulties like internet problem or not having a proper device to go on online learning. And 10 out of 35 respondents answered that it may not be possible for them to go back to campus due to the amount of cases that keeps on rising from day to day. And the rest, 8 out of 35 responded give a different answer. They are feeling like they are excited to go back to campus. They even give their opinion that it is hard to say, and some even say that it is a need. And moving on to the next data, which is data 8. In data 8, the researcher asked the respondent whether can they guarantee that the students will obey with the SOP when they are allowed to return back to campus. And the majority of 60%, which equivalent to 21 out of 35 responded, answer no, they do not guarantee. And the other 40%, or 14 out of 35, responded answer yes, they think. This show that some of the responded they want to go back to campus, but they can't guarantee that the student can obey the SOP. And next, in data 9, next please. In data 9, we focuses on the students who live in the rented house. We ask about what is their opinion about this news. And the majority of them give opinion like they are not sure about this the about this news, whether to be happy or to be sad, because some of them have already terminated um, their contract with the landlord. And next, in data 10, we ask about the students' mental health, and the majority of them answer they are agree with the statement, which is online classes have affected your mental health. And the least answer is the strongly disagree with the statement and neutral. Next, we'll pass the presentation to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Amiro. So continuing on, due to the nature of online distance learning, where students learn 100% by themselves and within their own time, some students may feel tired and lethargic. We conducted the survey, with 1 being strongly agree, whereas 5 is strongly disagrees. From a total of 35 responses, we understand that 17.1% or 6 people strongly agree that online school makes them lethargic. Excuse me, majority at 28.6% or 10 people agrees on the topic, whereas 20% or 7 people is feeling neutral. 17.1% or 6 people disagrees, and 17.1% or 6 people strongly disagrees that months of online distance learning makes them lethargic. From this data, it is evident that majority of them at 28.6% agrees that they feel lethargic after months dealing with online distance learning. Due to the fact that students' daily life took a 180 degrees turn than what is considered normal, one of the questions that we ask is whether they notice any changes from their normal behavior. Based on the responses that we got out of 35 people, 20% or 7 people strongly agrees that they have slight differences in their characteristics. 22.9% or 8 people agrees, a majority of 25.7% or 9 people appears to be neutral on the topic, and 11.4 or 4 people disagrees, whereas 20% or 7 people strongly disagrees. To conclude, a majority of 25.7% feels that they are neutral on whether they have differed from their normal behaviors or not. Moreover, moving on, we wanted to see how ODL affects the student's eyesight. Research shows that blue light is harmful for our eyes and they can contribute redness and more. The number one source for blue light is from our electronic devices, such as laptop, phone, tablets, and etc. Out of 35 responses, 37.1% or 13 people strongly agrees that ODL affects their eyes to become reddish and sore. 17.1% or 6 people agrees, and 11.4% or 4 people are neutral regarding it. 14.3% of 5 people disagrees, whereas 20% or 7 people strongly disagrees. From this, we can conclude that a majority of 37.1% students' eye health are affected due to ODL and that their eyes turns reddish, etc. Lastly, but not least, as researchers for this survey, we wanted to know how important it is for students to take a mental break by doing physical exercise. With education being online, we know that things are bound to be more difficult and mentally draining. According to Malaysian National Education Philosophy, they have a concept for an optimal and balanced lifestyle by prioritizing physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual aspects. From 35 respondents, a majority of 45.7% or 16 students strongly agree that it is important to take a break for your mental health by doing physical exercises. 14.3% of 5 people agrees, 11.4 of 4 people is neutral, 11.4 of 4 people disagrees, whereas 17.1% or 6 people strongly disagrees. To conclude, a majority of 45.7% or 16 people strongly agrees that doing physical activities could be good to give your mental health a break. Continuing on with Iman, I'll pass it on to Iman. Thank you.
Thank you, Alpha, Alif, and Amira for the data explanation just now. Next, I would like to conclude today's presentation with a few recommendations that we collected from local university students. First and foremost, the Ministry of Higher Education and MOHE needs to get confirmation from Majlis Keselamatan Negara and KN immediately. It is preferable to confirm the final date at least a month before so that the students can have their time to prepare themselves mentally, physically, and financially. Students who live far from campus can start to plan their tickets and find rental houses. Next slide. The administration needs to create a rule where students and lecturers are required to follow the standard operating procedures (SOP) during physical classes, such as social distancing, mask is compulsory, sanitize your hands, and check the temperature before entering the class. This is only applicable for faculties who have to conduct physical classes, and it is very recommended to minimize physical classes until a vaccine is given. Next, do provide strong Wi-Fi at the campus for online classes proposals. Students need strong internet connection to join online platforms such as Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams, and Google Meet. In addition, it is advisable to decrease the difficulty level of assignments to make sure students are taken care of mentally. Well, online classes can be very stressful sometimes. Therefore, this recommendation could make things much easier for both parties, lecturers, and also our students. Assignments, tutorials, quizzes, and test submissions is compulsory to be open for 24 hours. In other words, we call it as open book test. This is in case if some student might have problems with internet connection, they might not be able to do submission within the time limit given, and also as a consideration in case they might involve with emergency cases such as fever and etc. Well, lecturers also ought to give consistent and clear instructions since classes are conducted online, and please avoid last-minute changes. Finally, allow students who want to go back to campus to stay in the college regardless of their batch or qualification, as it is hard to look for affordable rental houses. As we know that university give this opportunity to only to first-year students and those who actively join co-curriculum. But since they are given the choice whether to stay at campus or not, why don't they just allow those who want or have to go back to stay at the college? As a conclusion, I hope all parties will come out with the best solution for everyone. Stay safe, stay at home. Thank you.